Welcome everybody to our Monday night empowerment session. Tonight, we're going to be talking about adaptogens and your lymphatic connection. Believe it or connection, lymphatic system. Believe it or not, there is a connection between the two that might surprise you, and hopefully that you will find helpful with supporting your health. So if you will also notice that in the bottom left-hand corner, for those of you that would like to get text reminders for when we're starting these, look, and you can text the word learn to 1-866-256-1970. All right, and I think we've got someone that needs to get unmute or get muted here before we get started. Okay. So let's start out the gate with a few testimonies regarding the lymphatic system. This is a great one, and talking about the simplicity of our products and what you can use. This person had a swollen lymph node underneath their right jaw, which was causing a large amount of pain. They applied a thick layer of the Sol AC cream, and voila, no more swollen node. Amazing stuff. And so sometimes it's just as simple as using something like the AC cream. And then we have another great one talking about using Renew Violence Cinemate. They've been using it for about 2 to 3 weeks, and were now off their water pills that they were taking for severe edema. And lots of times we end up with a condition like lymphedema, where we've got the retention of all this fluid in their system and in their legs, and they're not aware or realizing that simple support for that lymphatic system can help address this for some people. So in this case, for them, the Renew Violence Cinemate was working wonders for them. Now, they did go on and talk about how they were able to challenge migraines with some of the different oils, and with the calm and balance, and then or lift, and making certain that they jumped on it right when it started. So there probably is a connection with them for the lymphatic system that they're just not aware of. But regardless, we've learned over the course of time the power of these soul products, and in particular the drinks and what they can get in and do. So I have no doubt that in some way it mattered these were all tied together. So let's look at the lymphatic system and what are the functions of it, or some of them, so that we can make certain you kind of understand what we're looking at. So the lymphatic system is important for maintaining fluid levels in your body, both in the cells, out of the cells, and with the purifying. It ties in with the blood. It's also involved with absorbing fats from your digestive tract. In fact, there's something called GALT, or also known as the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, that is involved with the lymphatic system's expression in the digestive tract, and it does tie in with fats and some proteins. So this becomes very important. So also, it's also involved with helping to protect your body against foreign invaders, whether you're talking about bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi, and it's involved with producing and releasing different types of white blood cells and other immune cells in order to challenge this. And then finally, one of the other general things it's involved with is transporting and removing waste products and abnormal cells from the lymph. So it is a big filtering system. Maybe that's a good way to look at it. And it's very important that the filtering system continues to be able to flow and not be stagnant. So what would be signs of getting a congested lymph system? What does that look like? You might wake up or notice that your fingers are swollen. You might have sore, stiff joints when you're waking up. Bloating. Now, remember, there's some ties into the digestive tract. So a lot of people are not aware that bloating can be tied to congested lymph. Weight gain or extra belly fat. And we'll be looking at that. Why can that happen? Cellulite, swollen glands. When the lymph system gets overwhelmed, the toxins cannot make their way out. The body, again, because it makes no mistakes, will find places to set these toxins, and sometimes it can go into cellulite, because it's putting it in these cells or in these tissues until it can address it. We can end up with brain fog, so difficulty in being able to think. We can end up with exhausted or just general fatigue. Well, think about it. It's kind of like what we call stinking thinking. If you've got a congested lymph system and it's working with moving these toxins and everything else out of the system, and it can't, then you're not going to be able to think that well, and you're certainly not going to have energy. You also can end up with skin issues and concerns. We can have mild headaches. During our cycles, you might develop, have swelling issues or breast tenderness. We also end up with lowered immunity and an elevated histamine response. It might even show up as a hive type response with it gets strong enough and the lymph system can't move things out. But what it boils down to is when this is not addressed and supported and it gets overwhelmed, it's almost like just dominoes that you set them off. It rolls in from one thing to another as it keeps moving and trying to find a place, again, to protect you from the toxins that are in the system. This to me, I think, is a great picture to help you realize how important it is to keep the lymph from stagnating and what it could translate into. What does it look like when you have stagnation of the lymph? Yes, can that boat still navigate through that area? Yes, it can. Can it do it as easily as if that was a cleaned out area? Absolutely not. Can you see where things will be growing and that shouldn't be there? And you're not going to have ideal, not only the ideal environment for the plants to grow, but also for the different fish and the different aquatic creatures that live there. So when there is stagnation of the lymph, there will be a higher risk of infection in the body. So another reason to be keeping that lymphatic system clean. So again, this visual, just think of the lymphatic system getting cluttered like that when we think of stagnation or congested. Can you see now why you would have swollen joints, foggy thinking, malaise, or exhaustion? So one of the very powerful herbs that we have in our Omnitox formula is Mangista. And it is a beautiful plant, but it's very unique in its abilities and what it does with the lymphatic system. So I really wanted to look at that in depth. It is known in Ayurvedic medicine as one of the best blood purifiers. That right there tells you the power that it has in the lymphatic system with helping to clean out the blood. It also has the ability to help increase the amount of hemoglobin in the red blood cells. Again, when you're cleaning it out, then the blood can do its job. It removes congestion in the blood. So think of that, just picture we just saw in the water, as if someone was taking a net through there and collecting all the trash and moving it out and cleaning it out so it could do, have a good, healthy pH and environment in there to have ideal growth there. Mangista is also known to help improve circulation. Well, again, think if we were removing congestion in the blood by helping the lymphatic system do its job, then that circulation is more easily going to flow. As a result, your skin conditions and complexion improves as well. It's also known as a rejuvenative tonic. And a tonic herb is an herb that all encompassing comes in and supports the body. Well, when you think about that, the lymphatic system touches everywhere in the body. And if it is helping in general to help take the trash out of that system and support the immune system in delivering, the soldiers to support and defend, then of course it's going to allow for rejuvenation. This was really neat running across this information. It actually helps to dissolve calcium-containing stones in the urinary tract. That was something I was not aware of, and that's specifically tied in with urinary health. It also helps inhibit inflammatory responses in both asthma and arthritis. It also can help prevent platelet aggregation for conditions that people know of, like a deep vein thrombosis. It's also hepatoprotective, particularly against hepatitis B. So we're seeing that this plant does so much for the system. It has some known anti-tumor activities. It helps inhibit glutathione depletion. That becomes very important with helping the body mount defense for free radical damage and things like that. It also has anti-psoriatic activity. Otherwise, it helps to prevent psoriasis. And in veterinary medicine, this herb in particular is used to challenge liver flukes, dysentery, maggots, wounds, and intestinal worms. And I got all this information from one of the other books I refer to a lot, It's an Ayurvedic herb book, and there are quite a few adaptogens that come out of that culture as well. But Mangista, I just think it was so important to understand the power of this plant. It is absolutely crucial in my system for helping to support that lymphatic system. And actually, lately, in the past probably 6 to 9 months, I've been taking Omitox in the morning with fiber to help just support my system so that it's running its best right now. So there's a stress lymph connection too that I think a lot of people are unaware of. And what does that look like? Well, when our cortisol levels get up too high because we've been in stress for a long time, cortisol is actually very acidic and it can cause a breakdown of the lymphoid tissue. And it also impedes that lymphatic flow so that the toxins, instead of being able to be taken out of the system, actually start moving around to different areas of the body. We might see that show up with the swelling in different areas or different breakouts in different areas or pain in different areas. But again, the fact that it's breaking down the lymphoid tissue, and just think of an acid, how an acid can burn, that is, again, cortisol has a function, but when it is there too long, it ends up causing issues. It also, long-term stress can cause a reduction in the lymphatic flow, which compromises the digestive system. Remember, we were talking about this GALT system, this gut-associated lymphoid tissue that's in there. So when we do not get that flow like it should, your digestive system is unable to do its job properly. And you can end up with bloating, constipation, weight gain. And again, you're not being able to move the fats and some of the proteins like you need to. It also, when you have chronic and excessive stress, it can suppress the immune function. And when we remember how the lymphatic system is responsible for helping the white blood cells and other come in and challenge the system, and it's unable to move out these parasites, toxins, viruses, bacteria, then of course it's going to be suppressed. We're going to have some challenges here. And then finally, mental stress alone can cause swollen lymph nodes. So there's just multiple different ways where stress is something to be paid attention to. Enter adaptogenic herbs. It's a perfect fit for helping to challenge some of this. So when people think, oh, well, why is Vital helping? Well, Vital could be helping because of what it does for the blood, but it could also be helping because of the 6 different adaptogens that are in there. They're helping to lessen the impact that stress is having on the lymphatic connection. Holy basil is a fantastic adaptogen. And it's been, I pulled this and one other because of their notoriety in what it does for the lymphatic system. And so it is neuroprotective, but particularly when we have cortisol levels that are too high. And because it helps to balance cortisol, it is able to protect that brain and help it to fire better. It also works for the mental and cognitive health, like I was just saying, helps with getting the sleep cycles back. Again, cortisol gets out of balance. Not only do we have the acid components and how it hits it, but all these other things that throws out of balance. And just like those dominoes I was saying, when they start falling, everything gets out of whack. It also is helping to protect the body against environmental chemical exposure that the lymphatic system would normally end up dealing with. So if it's keeping that from having a detrimental impact on the body and those organs, then that's huge. It also is very good at helping with free radical scavenging. So what products is this in? It is in both the Avant Greens and the Omitox. So just be knowing you're getting that extra protection there. And holy basil, again, cortisol levels, when things get out of balance with that for a long time, people really do end up with some of that belly fat and disturbances in the gut health that just cause a lot of other health issues. And then we have curcumin coming tied in with turmeric. It's a beautiful yellow color, but it has some lymphatic impacts too that I want to pay attention to, because it as well addresses cortisol, helping bringing it into range. It does boost the lymphatic circulation. And I believe one of the reasons that it helps to boost lymphatic circulation is because it is such a strong blood purifier. It also reduces inflammation. And this is really neat because it is so neuroprotective that it actually helps provide for the brain to still build and make new brain cells even when it's under stress. Its challenges and is very good at dealing with gram-negative bacteria, pathogenic funguses, lung inflammation, and it protects the liver. All of this in general is going to make it very important for that lymphatic system. And of course, we have this in our Solflex PI. Yes, this is pain and inflammation, but I want to point this one out because I'm not certain that many people would think of it and how it could come in and support the lymphatic system. So here's another testimony talking about Violin Excel. This person had widespread edema for years, but it decreased substantially because of using the Violin Excel. And they also saw that their husband's circulatory issues in one leg that had caused nerve damage was starting to work and heal that. And if, again, think back to that visual of the river there with all the pollution. If we're cleaning that out, then the body can get in and do its job. This was another great testimony about a woman whose son got an infection in his sinuses and his lymph nodes under his chin, and the swelling was about the size of a golf ball. So they was already using Vital and Cinemate, and they added Excel in, and the lymph node immediately started going down, that swelling. Again, don't underestimate the power of using these. And she nailed it when she called it the trifecta at that point, using those three. And that was before we had Renew, but using those three together was very, very powerful for the results that she got. So now I've asked Greg to give us, cover the next 2 points on that Soul Certain guarantee, so that we're all aware of actually there's a lot of thought behind this. And I wanted to take a moment and let Greg share that. Let me make you co-host there, Greg. There you go.
Thank you, Valerie. Hello, everybody. Good to see you tonight. Kind of this afternoon, I guess it depends on where you are, right? Early evening here, a little later in the evening as you go east. Let me jump to, oh, hang on just a second. Let's see if it shows the right. Is it showing the green
Yes.
bars? Oh, great. Okay. So I'm happy to, I always like talking about this. It's a subject that, oh, I'm trying to think of how, of the right word that shows how important it is. It's just at the center of everything we do. I mean, if you think about it, we deal in things that we eat and that need to be relied upon. They make such a huge difference when we make nutritional habits out of these herbs that Valerie teaches us about, and that you all share about. And so it is behind the scenes, but it is something in our life, in our daily life, that is being talked about out in the open quite a bit. And that's the way we want it. And that's why we wrote these, so that it can sit out in the open for everyone to see and remain a topic of importance. So number 3 talks about testing. And the reason that we wrote it the way we wrote this was written before Soul was launched, based on the 20 years that we had lived in the industry and experiences that we had gone through, lessons learned, and also I think trends that we were seeing in the quality sector. We had just returned last week from Las Vegas, where supply side, the supply side event, which was held this year. It is not easy. We're spoiled over here. We don't need to wear masks everywhere, but we had to wear them nonstop down there in Las Vegas. But it was worth it for us to go to this show, because you have suppliers that we're going to talk about in number 4 here. They come from all over the world, and sprinkled in this show. And just imagine, honestly, I can't count the booth. There were probably 80% of the quantity that are normally there. I spent 2 full days making the rounds, 2 full days. And I was able to get everything this year. There are some years where we can't. The expo is only open 2 days, because you do have laboratories from all over the world that will show you some of their latest testing they're doing. You have raw materials from every corner of the world and so many exciting things happening as fruits and plants and veggies that we aren't, that you don't find here in the US, but that are very key in different parts of the world, are made more globally available because of these good practices. And so testing is right at the center. You can't talk with a supplier that won't want to show you all the tests they do. So what kind of tests you do are important to us. So we did write, if you look at number 3, it says we utilize state-of-the-art tests. That's because honestly, they are always evolving. There is better machinery. You can detect at greater levels as tests are devised and designed to detect different things in plants. Those things are, they spread, and you start to see them spoken about in more places. This is one of the reasons why we do work with 2 different laboratories. Actually, there's a third that we've worked with in testing. So we have our laboratory in developing products, but we work with separate testing because we want to keep abreast of all the advancement. And there is advancement in the testing as well. Why? Because of what we wrote in number 3. We want to ensure, first of all, for starters, the absolute purity. And then second, we want to be able to identify features and attributes. So when you look at purity, that deals with pesticides, okay, a long time topic. Heavy metals, I lump in pesticides, chemicals of all kinds, okay? And then heavy metals, that's just something that's part of soil, has been, always will be, and they're not all bad, okay? As they sound bad, but they're not all bad in minute amounts. And other contaminants. Microbials, you can see that that's the 4th item there, a very broad category, because again, that's something where more is learned, right? As we do our darndest to alter things in nature, we're really proud of ourselves, not us in soul, but humankind, let's put it that way, in being able to create things that are synthetic, and a good number of them cause problems. And some of them really are really game changer helpers in certain key urgent situations. But we want to deal with lasting health here. So we really actually want to stay away and to be able to detect all synthetics and chemicals. That's just part of what we do. So there are a lot of different tests that are done. They're not the same for every product. I will just tell you that, because some products and plants are known to be in areas where there are certain problems. And so you'll find a good supplier will be ahead of the game and knows that, and will test. We deal with suppliers that we've known for many, many years. So they all give us these tests. Then we simply just come and duplicate them here. If there's something new, I can't tell you, it's been a long time since we've had to go back to a supplier, years, and say, hey, will you test for this too? They know this, they deal with the standard that we've given them, and so they know what we expect. So it honestly is a pretty smooth process. So number 3 is a huge variety test, and we're asking Blake at events to share some of those with you here and there, just so we can highlight them, and we'll continue to do that. Number 4, it sounds pretty, I don't know, basic, right? You select suppliers who use harvesting practices that are sustainable and environmentally responsible. And I will tell you, the gold star suppliers, those that we have long-term relationships with, there's no other way they would have it. They have a long view, like we do, of the industry and of health. And they don't need anyone to tell them that if it's not sustainable and environmentally responsible, the future of these ingredients would be in jeopardy. And so these, again, we are unified with the same cause that our suppliers feel, which is sustainability and being environmentally responsible. That being said, I just told you about an expo we went down to. You can find a large number of suppliers who jump on the scenes and will tell you, we can get you this same thing, and it's always a better price, and its origin is not stated and cannot be verified. So I can tell you that it is a big deal. Writing number 4, including number 4, is a big deal for us because by experience, the responsible suppliers will all do this, and it's very obvious from the gate. They come out. A lot of them now, if you, again, speaking of this supply event that I just spoke to, will have their documentation and actually show you tests of sustainability. I will tell you, I'll give you an example, a very interesting ingredient that we're looking at for the future, because we deal in plant source ingredients, are microalgae. And there are some really interesting microalgae. There's one in particular that has many, one of them that has great brain benefits that I was interested in that are quite unique. And then another one that brings balance to the skin, and a little bit of what Valerie was talking about today. Well, because of what it does in balancing that, that environment, it will take redness out and several other things that are inflammatory conditions because of problems, because it gets in there and deals with some of those. Well, part of this supplier, which was a new supplier to us, was an extensive brochure that showed their facility, how the microalgae are grown, how they're harvested, how the whole facility is managed to be environmentally responsible and not altered from the natural progression or the natural growth of these. So it is a big part. Number 4 is a big part of really responsible suppliers. What I'm trying to say, that's not hard to see. That one is not hard to spot if you want to be responsible yourself. One example that is not inside the ingredients would be our bags. So as we, this coming month, as we bring a new product to Seoul, we're able now, because the technology has improved enough in these gusseted bags, like the bags that we have Seoul Complete in, to get post-consumer material. So the bag is entirely made of post-consumer material. We need certain seals and properties of the bags. And so not every one of those will work for us. But again, being environmentally responsible, that is something that is thankfully becoming more and more visible and much more easy to have options to choose from. Whereas before you sort of had 1 or 2 options, and if they didn't work for your product, you were just stuck. I'm talking about the recyclable issue with bags, because there are certain things that you can get it recyclable and they are not a good seal. They will not protect your product, but they're recyclable. And that's not a trade-off we're willing to make. So they've got, the science has to meet, the environmental responsibility also needs to meet the purity and the potency requirement of quality, which is first and foremost. 5th, the last point is just simply about the timing of testing. I think we've talked about it before, and Blake will continue. If you're new listening to this, Blake is one of the co-founders of Seoul, in charge of all of supply chain and testing, quality assurance. And Blake will feature some of the tests that we make. We'll continue to do that just because it gives people a little bit of an insight. We do have scheduled testing. I think I've mentioned before, every raw material has to get tested. The supplier first tests it, then they prepare it and send us the C of A. So right when we get it, it comes with a verification. Then before it's released for any use, blending, encapsulating, or any kind of filling, there is also a quality test done here, showing the same thing that we listed in number 3. And also in number 2. And then after it's blended, another microbial test is done to make sure no impurities entered. And then finally, notice that number 5 says both scheduled and random finished product testings. There is a test out about 6 months, but we will regularly pull things 2 and 3, and we've even pulled 4 and 5 years old, which is longer than our best buy date. Our best buy date is 3 years. We pull them longer because we want to see how it's performing. How the stick packs, that's all the signature drinks, Sol Vital, Cinemate, Sol Excel, and Renew, how they do even after, well after their best buy date. And what we found is virtually no growth. In other words, there's always growth of bacteria, but nothing that rises to a level of concern or even close to a level of concern, even 2 years after the best by date. That's the latest I think we've done. So that's the random one. We also sometimes we'll pull a batch. We did this about a year ago. I don't know if you remember, we showed a test on Sol Complete because we were curious to see after a certain number of months. We pulled an older sample. In other words, not one in the warehouse that was the current batch, one that was older. And we wanted to see how much vitamin C was in it. Curiosity, we hadn't measured that particular product. We were for vitamin C levels. And that's where I think we showed you that graphic. One serving of Sol Complete is almost just barely under 3 grams of vitamin C, 3,000 milligrams. Most people, when they take vitamin C, they'll take those 1,000 milligram tablets. And so this is an example of a random finished product testing that we will do. And we didn't just, by the way, measure vitamin C. We actually measured quite a few things. We just were curious as to them. And sometimes we'll do a microbial. Again, we don't need to do that one that early because that's part of the scheduled testing. So this is not something required by the industry, as you know. The industry has certain requirements to be GAP certified, or GMP, sorry, I said GAP, but that's the accounting, GMP certified. But we do have more than that because we have more interest in the performance of the product over time than just what the industry standard is to put it on a shelf. So that's the reason why we do that. I hope that provides a little bit of insight. Valerie, back to you.
There we go. Somehow I got muted. That was odd. Okay. Let's move on here. So I wanted to look at and show one or two other ways to help support the lymphatic system. Some people are familiar with dry skin brushing, and that is very, very beneficial. And you can look up for diagrams how to do it. It's very simple. It's very quick. But it's very important to drink plenty of water as well. It will help the fluid to move better. And it's actually pretty simple. The more fluid you have in your body, the more fluid your lymphatic system will be. When you're dehydrated, it's more sticky in there. The bonded proteins are in the lymph and it's harder to move. So even the dry skin brushing, you will get a better response if you're doing a better job at staying hydrated. And then one of the other items is very important is using deodorant and not antiperspirant. Think about, like we said, lymph nodes are all over in the body, but there is a lot also there in the armpit. And if you're using an antiperspirant and or a deodorant that has a lot of toxins in them, it's going right into that lymphatic system. And then the body's having to work to circulate and move that out. So finding a way to address that area without all the chemicals. A lot of us are now just using that Connect spray, or I just use that Connect spray with a dab of the Sulflex AC cream, and that is working perfect. And I know all the added benefits that it is doing with getting those essential oils into that lymphatic system so quickly there as well. So hopefully you can understand the benefit that using the Bella Health program will have on the lymphatic system, if for no other reason than how it supports building the gut health. But you also see how the Vital can help with supporting with cleaning the blood and the 6 adaptogens that are in there as well to help reduce the impact that stress is having on the system. We're supporting digestion with the Vertizymes, Cinnamate, and the ProBio IQ, which again, the lymphatic system is involved with the digestive process. And then the D3 formula is going to help with just in general supporting all the health of the body. So this is very good for a base foundation. We talked about these other products over here on the right. Any of those can be added into this to help get more support for the lymphatic system if that's what you need to do. So approaching it through the gut health program with the Bella Health might be sufficient. But again, these are ones that we talked about, and I have the Soul Clear up there because of even though I didn't go in depth with it, it is a spinoff off of the Excel as well, but we're also looking at how think of it as like filtering. So anything that helps with filtering in the system is going to help support that lymphatic system. And so our quote is, your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change. So no matter what you're thinking and doing for addressing your health, you're going to have to make a decision, and you're actually going to have to do something. We can't get better by just sitting back and hoping that it does, or that you get lucky. So hopefully you will join us next week. We will be talking about the soul business opportunity. And again, if you would like to get reminders to opt into the texting program, and text the word learn to 1-866-256-1970. And hopefully next week we will see you guys.